This podcast contains adult language and stories of true crime. If you don't like laughing, crying, or being horrified at the actions of other humans, this podcast is not for you.
Listeners, hello.
Hello.
Honey buns.
Listeners, listen up.
This is a listener short stack. And, the thought that just ran through my mind is there someone out there who's like, what is wrong with them and why did they call it a listener short stack? Probably. Right?
I hope you have an answer because I don't.
I mean, I guess if you came in the middle and didn't go back and listen, then maybe you don't know.
I mean, it's a pun? ?
It's a play on words and it's a reference.
And we love Robert Stack, so you get that. It's a short stack, so it's a smaller episode, which is also what pancakes are called.
Yeah, it's a pile of pancakes and it references Stack and it is talking about how this is a short episode.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on. And so if you don't understand it now, I don't know what to tell you. We've explained it to you fully.
We've told you.
In full detail. Okay. A listener short stack is where we read to you what you've written to us, and we're excited to do it. And listen to the end of the show where we'll tell you where you can write to us if you want to be featured on a listener short stack as well.
So the first message comes to us from Rebecca via email. And Rebecca says, I hope y'all are well. Firstly, I am so excited you upload every week now.
Aww.
Well, that makes one of us. You're the best. I can only imagine how hard y'all work to provide us content, and I couldn't be more grateful. That is so nice.
That's very nice.
And we do work hard, but it is super worth it, and we're excited about it too. I just want to take a moment to offer up some recommendations. Fun. I'm not sure if you've already mentioned these podcasts before, but I thought I'd share just in case. My cousin-in-law recently got me into the podcast Your Own Backyard, which discusses the case of Kristen Smart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a somewhat local case since we live in the Bay Area, and this case is from San Luis Obispo. My cousin-in-law actually attended the school that Kristen went to during the time of her disappearance, and he still lives in San Luis Obispo to this day. While binging this podcast, in between your episodes, of course, I discovered that it was actually featured on UM. I'm not sure what season the case is featured in, but I highly recommend listening to this podcast for updates and an in-depth look into the case. It's really well done.
Cool.
So, I mean, this was, I guess, a while back, but we all know that that podcast was what helped get this case solved, from what I hear.
And it's so good, even if you know that ending of it. It's really good. I forget the host's name, but not even a journalist, I don't think.
No, I think he went to school at the same time that she did, or went to school after her. I don't know,
but just incredible. Wow. Really well done.
Cool. I haven't even heard of it.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
Rebecca goes on and she says, the next one I'm recommending is called The Shattered Window, and it discusses the case of Jacqueline Dowalibi, a 7-year-old girl who went missing from her own bedroom. I binged this podcast after Your Own Backyard and discovered that the case was also featured on UM. Crazy, right?
Oh, wow.
This one was also incredibly thorough and well done. So that is hosted by Emily Thompson, who is the host of Morbidology, and she is a writer, a true crime writer, and she's also a true sweetie, and she's great. And I've listened to Shattered Window. It's really, really good. Both cases are still technically ongoing in some way or the other. I'll let you binge them to find out what that really means. Check them out, and I know you'll love them. That's all for now. Keep up the great work, stay safe, and continue being awesome. And then Rebecca says, feel free to share my name and read this just as it is written. Love you, ladies. Bye.
Oh.
Love, a fellow armchair detective, Rebecca.
This one's from Nicole W. via email. And Nicole says, first off, let me say thank you for getting me through some long nights studying for law school. Going on to my final year. A whole lot of mental breakdowns, money, and podcast listening hours have almost seen me through to becoming a female lawyer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Badass. Your funny side comments and Carlin's never ending...
Oh, no.
I did not read those. Your funny side comments and Carlin's never-ending bad luck of getting the doozies have made studying nights a heck more enjoyable.
Oh, my...
Eliza's like, I get the doozies.
Oh!
It depends on what your definition of doozy
I
is.
I didn't know you meant... Okay. I thought, like, getting the doozies was a sickness.
Like she's got a bad case of the doozies.
I didn't realize she meant doozy story. It's like, okay, I get it now.
I mean, maybe, I don't know when this one was submitted because we all get some doozies here and there.
Well, you get the doozies, girl. You're down with those doozies.
Down to doos.
I have quite a few stories to what has led me to pursue a career path as a lawyer. But for the sake of keeping this email shorter, I will share a couple and write in later with the rest if you want to hear them. What first sparked my interest in the legal field was a criminology class in my undergrad. My professor was an ex-cop, detective, and undercover agent. He played for us a documentary on serial killers. Halfway through the story on Jeffrey Dahmer, he pauses the movie and points to one of the cops carrying out the fridge from Dahmer's apartment. Yes, the same fridge that he kept body parts and the heads of his victims in. Well, one of the cops tasked with the duty of carrying it out was my professor.
Oh, no.
Wow.
He said it was one of the most disgusting crime scenes he ever saw in his career.
Oh, I can imagine.
Can only imagine. Like, we know that it was one of the most disgusting. The class taught me a lot, and let me tell you, there was never a dull moment. Further, crime/mysteries have touched my life in a variety of ways. My neighbor's nephew went missing 2 years ago. He was in his 20s and hasn't been seen since. They found his car in a national park with some personal items inside. What?
I just recently read about this because I was looking into missing person cases in national parks.
Oh.
I fell into a rabbit hole, and I think I know who she's talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't there a whole podcast about this too? There's like national parks stories.
There should be.
There's
a lot of people.
Let me look. I think there is.
That would be a great topic. Wow. Okay, so they said they found his car in a national park with some personal items inside. They haven't found a single thing since, despite multiple searches to figure out what could have happened to him.
Yes.
Just last year, I lost a dear friend of mine in a murder-suicide.
Oh.
Ugh. Her husband killed her before taking his own life after a history of depression, alcoholism, and domestic abuse.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry. The history of this man, only which was known after her death, since they seemed so happy and no one, including their families, knew otherwise.
Oh my gosh.
I also share this in the hopes that the podcast may donate the money from reviews to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in the future.
Yes.
We would love to do that.
Yeah.
If one person can be helped by sharing her story, I know she will live on in a way that she should be remembered. I love that you guys give back from the podcast and support a variety of causes. Many thanks again and look forward to the podcast. N. P.S. I love rocking my Resolve Mysteries podcast tee to my late night library study sessions. Aww. So cute.
That's so nice.
So nice. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry that you have experienced all those things.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
The podcast I was talking about is called Park Predators.
Oh, wow.
Well, thanks, Nicole.
Nicole, thank you. And
yeah, thank you.
Nicole, if you want to email us the name of your friend, we can donate in her name to that
would be
organization.
nice.
Nice.
Yeah, we can do that.
Good idea.
Yeah. Eliza, this is all you, honey.
Oh, honey, I'm in. Okay, the resident Anglophile is ready to go.
You have to read this in a British accent, though, please.
Oh, God.
No, I'm just kidding.
Just the first sentence.
Mine turns into Australian. I up me ducks.
It does sound Australian.
It's not good.
I feel like you practiced Australian so long that...
Too much. Yeah, too much. It ruined me. If I watched a bit of The Crown, that might help. See, it's still Australian.
That was pretty, I don't know.
It was decent.
Lisa says, I up me ducks, which I didn't know was a saying, and I looked it up, and it is from Northern England, and The world was shocked when both Dolly Parton and Angelina Jolie said at one time.
I want to hear Dolly say it.
I tried to play the BBC video, but it said it's not available in your area because we don't live there.
Dumb.
Which is sad.
I know you're still super mad about that war, but it just worked out that way. What you gonna do?
Listen, if anyone needs a mail order bride, I'm in.
I don't think they generally go that way, but...
Yeah. I don't think they go more west, but okay.
Okay. Just wanted to say how much I love your show. You guys keep me going through my night shift, key working in Sainsbury's supermarket here in Nottinghamshire, UK. I feel Eliza is my spirit animal as she's all about Team Cozy with an S. Excuse me very much. So that's so nice. We do know that we can't say spirit animal anymore because it is disrespectful to Indigenous cultures who do use it for cultural and religious practices. But I know what you're trying to say, and thank you so much.
Spirit sister.
Oh, I love that.
Anyhow, I really appreciate your recommendations, and I listen and watch to a lot of similar stuff to you all, so I thought I'd share some cozy, with an S, British shows with you. I know you love Bake Off, Repair Shop, and Pottery Throwdown, so you also need to watch, oh my gosh, I don't know about this, The Great British Sewing Bee.
Oh my God.
And Grayson Perry's Art Club. If you can get them over there, they are feel-good viewing.
I love it.
Also, there is a cozy, with an S, podcast called Mel Guydroik is Quilting. She used to present the original Bake Off. Yes, I know Mel, and she's so funny. Also, have you listened to Terry Carnation's new podcast, Dark Air, yet? What do you think? I haven't listened to it because I'm sad that they're not making Radio Rental right now.
I just want Radio Rental to come back.
We love Radio Rental. Cozy entertainment and spicy rum have pulled me through this pandemic. The start of COVID was crazy, selling out of toilet roll, no mask or social distancing. It freaked me out. Anyway, night shifts and resolved mysteries seemed to help me through. It was so weird listening to your episodes just before COVID hit because remember how you all got ill around that Christmas? Oh my gosh. So many others I know did too, which makes you think it was around before we all realized. Anyway, I have waffled on long enough now. Bloody love you all and appreciate all your hard work. Take care, honeys.
Oh, thank you,
honey.
Lisa, do you want to marry me so I can live there?
Can you adopt an Eliza?
Can you adopt an already married woman who has a child? That'd be awesome. Get me that citizenship, honey. This is I can't wait to check out The Great British Sewing Bee. Excuse me, amazing.
Gosh.
I'm so excited for all of these.
I know. It's so
Thank you
nice.
for the recs.
So this is one of the first times that we had an episode that received just such a hearty response from our listeners. People that I am astonished that listened to our show, and it was wonderful. My interaction with these listeners was incredible. So we had a few people write to us about our lack of knowledge when it came to the Shroud of Turin segment, which I think we're all willing to admit we were a little in the dark. And everybody was really nice. Nobody was mean. So we're going to read a couple of the things that they wrote to us. So I'm going to read something from our friend Brandon. And Brandon writes, podcast dream team. So starts out really great. I'm on board. At that point, Brandon can say whatever the hell Brandon wants to say, and I'm whatever. He already said that we're a dream team. So
because we know Brandon is cool with us.
Yeah, Brandon already likes us. So however Brandon is now going to offer some help, I'll allow it because he started out really nice. Let me first pass along some feedback for your show. Not only do I love the topic of exploring old unsolved mysteries, which brought me to you, but your thorough research for each story keeps me subscribed and coming back. Your listener short stories also add a very personal touch, and I hope what I write today will be considered for a future segment. Well,
I think that you mean our sand dollars.
Silver dollars, honey.
Silver dollar.
Sand dollars seems a little crunchy.
I feel like we just need to have a collective meeting about some stuff before we record these. know basic things like who we are, what we're doing, and what it's called.
Do we even know what a short stack is? I'm not sure.
I don't know. So Brandon says, I appreciate the chance to weigh in on 3 topics. At the conclusion of this letter, I hope that the credentials I provide are enough testimony as to their veracity.
Okay, this person's too smart.
We trust you, Brandon.
You had us at Podcast Dream Team, so we're on board.
And then you had us again at veracity.
Yeah. So, Shroud of Turin. Number 1, the segment here is correct. If a burial shroud exists for Jesus, this would most assuredly be it. 2, the crucifixion was indeed brutal. The most common reason for death was actually suffocation, since the muscles and internal bleeding made breathing eventually impossible. Crosses typically had a small footstool of sorts, which provided the victim a chance to push their body up to breathe once their lungs gave out.
Yes, I think I remember knowing about that at one point. Ugh.
3, as was shared, yes, a Roman soldier pierced the side of Jesus. Since the next day was the biggest Jewish holiday of the year, Passover, everyone was in a hurry to get home and prepare, since it was against Jewish law to do any work the next day. In short, they wanted to hasten the death of those on the cross.
Yeah.
It was Roman tradition to leave those who were crucified hanging on the cross for the birds to finish off, and as a deterrent for future crime. The Jewish, however, wanted the bodies taken down on this specific day. To accomplish a quicker death, often the legs were broken. Oh my God. The soldiers opted to pierce Jesus' side instead to torture him and or see if he was still alive. This wound produced blood and water. Most scholars agree they likely pierced the sac surrounding his heart. Oh, interesting.
You know what I hate is the word sack when it's spelled S-A-C.
Yeah, nothing good comes from a sack like that.
S-A-C, and you know it's bad.
Yeah, nothing good comes from an SAC. Number 4, 100% the nails went through the victim's wrists, not hands. If the hands had been used, the criminal would have fallen off the cross after their hands ripped away due to gravity.
Okay, Brandon.
Brandon also says they also drove nails through the feet.
Yes.
5, shrouds are still used for Jewish death preparation to this day. Even more, the Jewish don't believe in cremation nor embalming and bury their dead within 72 hours. What made the burial of Jesus important is that without help, he would have been thrown in a landfill and not given proper internment. This was equated with the Jewish idea of a bad afterlife. 6, the women that followed Jesus were prepared to anoint Jesus with ointments and spices after about 1.5 days from death, and an account states that linen and cloth were laying neatly in his tomb. Listeners that want a great source for well-researched biblical scholarship is Bart Ehrman. Disinterment. In a segment you mentioned disappointment when a family would not disinter. So this goes back to the John Wilkes Booth segment. We also got a lot of listener email about that. Eliza, you're just crushing it with these wackadoodle.
It sounds like I'm really crushing it. A lot of people need to do my research for me.
Well, I think you're just really good at owning when you don't know about something.
Yeah. And our listeners are really good about being like, I know about that. I'm going to tell you. It's awesome.
You're open to knowing more.
Oh, Carlin, you're such a nice sister.
Well, it's true.
So Brandon says, in a segment you mentioned disappointment when a family would not disinter, i.e. exhume a body. I believe it was the John Wilkes Booth segment. What I will share is what I know to be true in the state of Florida. Disinterment may be authorized by law on 2 principal grounds. 1, in the public interest, or 2, for private purposes. The public purpose may be to further some matter of public interest, while the immediate reason may be private. It is well established that the state has the power to seek an exhumation for the purposes of gathering evidence for a criminal trial. There are examples of disinterment for civil cases, such as cause of death for insurance claims, but the burden of proof is usually stronger. For example, a court denied the request of a descendant's sister to have a body disinterred to examine the cause of death. Although they suspected foul play, the court noted an autopsy had been done prior to the burial, and the sister's suspicions were based on statements not under oath, i.e. hearsay. Whew, Brandon. In line with the case mentioned for John Wilkes Booth, when determining whether there's a good case to order disinterment, there are several factors considered, and they're almost in always this order. Number 1, the degree of the relationship that the party is seeking disinterment bears to the decedent, who wants them dug up. Number 2, the degree of the relationship that the party seeking to prevent disinterment bears to the decedent, who doesn't want them dug up. Number 3, the expressed wishes of the decedent. What did the dead person want? Number 4, the conduct of the interested parties. How are the interested parties behaving? Wow. Number 5, the length of time elapsed since death. So, John Wilkes Booth, like
a while.
200 or so. Number 6, the strength of reasons offered in favor and opposition to the disinterment. Number 7, the rights and principles of the religious body or other institution which granted the right to bury the body. How about some examples? Oh my gosh. In 1955, a loved one who was Catholic was buried in a Catholic cemetery. Later, when there was a will discovered, the executor petitioned the court to allow the removal of another cemetery, which the decedent had named in their will. From the above criteria, this would fall under reason number 3. However, in this case, the court refused permission to disinter. In 1974, the court was called upon to settle a family dispute about disinterment. A widow wanted her husband's remains removed from her in-laws' property. Evidence showed that the parents of the decedent and his wife were very hostile to each other. The court noted that the parties were Jewish, and Jewish custom did not favor disinterment. The court also recognized the judicial principle that courts don't permit disinterment unless there's a compelling reason. In this case, there was no record of what the decedent wanted. When there has been no request nor an express wish of the departed, plus there arises a conflict amongst spouse and blood relatives, the spouse should command first consideration. Balancing all these factors, the court allowed the wife to disinter the body and relocate it to another cemetery. And this is the last part. Obituaries. In Florida, as of now, obituaries are completely written by the surviving family without any fact-checking. I can't speak to how they would be published in the time of the 80s and 90s, but that was when newspapers would print them for little to no fee. However, any major newspaper today would charge an average of $250 to $700, but can be even higher. Just an FYI when stumbling across an obit during your research. Credentials. For 1.5 years, I was both a youth minister and religious major at FSU. I am currently a funeral director intern, which means in 2 years' time or less, I will be a licensed funeral director in Florida. I am still learning, so any follow-up questions or inquiries on this or any funeral topic are welcome. Brandon. Wow!
Brandon. A fountain of knowledge.
Oh my goodness. Also, I have a feeling you're going to crush being a funeral director.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, love it. And we will probably have questions for you. It's good to remember.
Yes. We have so many smart listeners who are willing to help us. It is so nice of them.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Stacy B via email says, "Hello, ladies. Absolutely love the podcast and have been listening for at least a year. Oh, thanks. I heard a mention of the Canadian residential schools in a short stack. It's a subject I knew nothing about until I started listening to true crime podcasts, sadly. Thankfully, there are some podcasts out there sharing facts we should all be aware of. Charlie on Crimelines has made it a point to cover stories of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, MMIW, and her episodes provide information about the background and culture of the individuals and their tribes and nations. Though it is a fantastic podcast overall, and I highly recommend it, I quickly went through the episode list to pick out the ones covering cases of MMIW if you want to skip straight to those. Oh. They include history lessons about wrongs against Native peoples that I had never heard of. The internment of Aleuts during World War II for their safety, in quotes. Government policies that crippled thriving tribes, all because communism is so scary. Failures in investigations due to the, quote, digital divide. Intergenerational trauma, residential schools, and of course racism, discrimination, all our white folk favorites. I put the list of relevant episodes at the end of the email. Sorry if I missed any. Even more educational was a CBC podcast by Connie Walker, an Indigenous woman herself, called Missing and Murdered, Finding Cleo, which you guys have listened to, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
I still haven't.
Connie Walker is also the one who hosts Stolen, which is the podcast that I mentioned maybe a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
The Search for Germaine.
Oh, okay.
It's really good.
So she says, Missing and Murdered, Finding Cleo. In all caps, she says, you need to listen to it if you haven't already. It is a long-form show about Connie's attempt to find out what happened to Cleo Semigonis after, quote, authorities came and removed the children from the home and adopted them to different homes in Canada and the U.S. as part of another devastating Canadian program to, quote, help the Indians.
Ugh.
It provides a full history lesson on residential schools and the Adopt Indian Metis program. Also revealing new horrors perpetrated against U.S. Native peoples, which I had no idea happened. Thank you, revisionist history class, is the book, soon to be a movie, Killers of the Flower Moon by David Gran.
That's Scorsese's next movie. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio in it.
Wow.
It's good. I can't wait for it.
Cool. Stacy says, just look up Osage oil guardianships. What the actual fuck? Here are a couple of links. So she provided a couple of links, and we will put those in the show notes. I am appalled that we never learned about these things in school. Hopefully things have changed since I was a kid. 1980s, baby. On a completely different note, the Judy Hyams segment, Personal Beverage Reasons, Season 3, Episode 17, do not ever stop renaming the episodes. Reminded me of stories I've heard about my aunt who, quote, got in trouble, read, got pregnant, in high school in 1967. She was not allowed to attend school because of what a terrible influence she might be, and they couldn't have a pregnant teen walking the halls of their pure and virginal high school. I mean, the guy who took advantage of a naive 16-year-old girl and coerced her into sex could keep going to class, but that slutty McSlutterson girl better not taint our students.
Oh.
Another aunt and my dad got to hear all the horrible things people said about her. They never got to hear all the horrible things the father of her child, who she married, of course, did to her. 2 words, dick bitch. Or is it 1 word? Dick bitch? Dick bitch. Let's go with both, as this guy deserves it. I'm going to send you another email with info on a local cold case that affected me as a kid, but I need to get more info first. This is probably enough for now. Keep up the hilarious work. Someone needs to do it. SB.
Aww.
And then SB did provide us a long list of episodes of the podcast Crimelines that pertain to this topic. So I don't know if we can include those in the show notes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
All right. Kimberly says, hello, ladies. I've been thoroughly enjoying your podcast since my brother recommended it to me a few months ago. We've been having a lot of fun rewatching UM and pairing it with your podcast. It was a show he and I watched growing up, and it is so wonderful to have someone to discuss some of these wild segments and crazy things y'all find when digging deeper. Oh, that's really nice. Mm-hmm. I'll let my brother tell you personal stories related to a couple of the UM segments you've covered, since he's expressed interest in writing to you as well and has a way better memory than me. But I didn't want to comment on the episode I did want to comment on the episode I'm currently listening to. Okay, Kimberly's brother, we're waiting for you.
Yeah.
From Season 3, Episode 8 on Amelia Earhart, I had no idea Fred Noonan was a celestial navigator and a quartermaster. My boyfriend was also a celestial navigator and quartermaster in the Navy, and I thought I would share part of a conversation he and I had about it because I'm an idiot when it comes to all things military, which apparently doesn't include the Merchant Marines, something I also learned from my boyfriend. From him, quote, the U.S. Navy does still have quartermasters on all their surface ships, and they absolutely still use celestial navigation. Or, more correctly, since 2015, they used celestial navigation again. That was when we figured out that Russia, China, and Iran could shoot our GPS satellites out of the sky.
Whoa.
Man.
Submarines, because they have very limited space for crew, so jobs get doubled up, utilize navigation electronics technicians as their quartermasters because they cannot afford berthing space for 3 conventional-only navigators now that GPS exists.
Oh, crazy.
Fred Noonan was a quartermaster in the U.S. Merchant Marine, not Navy. Normally, the USMM quartermasters are expert helmsmen, but not necessarily navigators. But Noonan had very unique aptitude as a navigator and quickly progressed from quartermaster to ship captain. Navigation of ships and aircraft is fundamentally the same. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So it was not uncommon for good navigators to switch between the two. Noonan actually did both simultaneously. By everyone's standards, he was one of the best navigators of the 20th century, which was how he came to be with Earhart.
Wow.
I also learned from him, so this is Kimberly again, that quartermasters have different meanings. Oh, that quartermaster has different meanings depending on which branch it's in. Quartermaster is a weird term in that it is used by so many different armed forces in different ways. In the Army and Air Force and Marines, a quartermaster is a non-commissioned supply officer. In the U.S. Merchant Marine, a quartermaster is a senior able seaman who is specialized as an expert helmsman. In the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard, a quartermaster is a non-commissioned officer, petty officer, specialized in navigation. So, as far as I know, the U.S. Navy and U.S. Coast Guard are the only bodies which use the term this way, and have since the 1780s.
Whoa.
I think, but I'm not sure, this dates back to the fact that the Continental Navy were mostly privateers and pirates, and the term was adopted from them.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
What? This is amazing.
And then Kimberly says, it also completely blows my mind that he didn't know Morse code, especially for being on ships during World War I.
Yeah.
Morse code was invented in the 1830s and was used in both world wars. For someone who went so far up in the ranks in the Merchant Marines and then to become proficient in flight navigation, I find that almost a bigger mystery than he and Amelia going missing.
Huh.
Yeah, that is weird. Shout out to my amazing boyfriend who constantly listens to me talk about how much I love this podcast while not having watched UM or listened to you girls. He's also the best person to stargaze with. Oh. I mean, I need this guy because I don't remember if I said this before, but I am sky blind. I'm white, blonde, face blind, and I'm sky blind. Oh my God. I should have finished part 1 before ending that email. I just wanted to add for Eliza that... oh my God. I actually said starblind before too.
Yes.
I just wanted to add for Eliza that, girl, I was starblind too. You need to find yourself a celestial navigator. Thanks to my boyfriend, I know Sirius, Venus, and Mars. But that's it because I'm horrible. I can't tell you how cool and weird and random of a superpower he has when I can just text him and say, babe, what's that? Oh my God. Babe, what's that star to the left of the moon right now? And he just knows instantly. Incredible. Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
That is so cool.
I don't get it.
I love Kimberly.
Girl.
Starblind in more ways than one.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That's a blanket term.
Yes. Well, for you it is, in a very strange way.
Okay, Kimberly, thank you. Kimberly's boyfriend, thank you.
That was not boring. That was fascinating. Thank you.
So good.
Wow. We have some knowledgeable listeners.
Truly. Okay. So the last message is from PJ via email. And like I said, we had a lot of people reach out to us after the Shroud of Turin segment. And everyone was really kind. And everyone really wants to educate us. And I think it's great. I also want to shout out Amy H. because she also wrote an email offering to give us information if we have another religious segment. And she, too, is a minister. So...
I'm also like medium embarrassed because I feel like Eliza and I should know more than we do.
It's not your
That's
religion.
what happens when you grow up in it, though.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not what you learn about. You learn about weird shit that you wish you didn't know.
I mean, I know some things, but...
I think it is important for our listeners to know that you both grew up in religion. It isn't that the three of us grew up completely a-religious.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's important because I don't want people to think that we're trying to speak to something and out of the three of us have no experience with it.
Yeah.
And it really is like when you grow up in New York, then you're not going to all these tourist attractions all the time. Like you're not learning about that different stuff. Or just like we grew up in Portland. Like So it's very much like that when you grow up in religion. There's a lot of stuff you actually don't learn about because it's so infiltrated in everything that you do that bigger. And also we didn't grow up in like Catholicism.
Yeah.
Where some of these relics might be more talked about.
I think that's an important thing to note is that just because you grow up religious doesn't mean you grew up with all of this niche knowledge of these relics and things like that. Okay, so PJ writes, "Hey there, ladies. Thank you so much for the podcast. I've listened regularly now for at least a year and occasionally will binge back episodes on long rides or road trips."
Aw.
Isn't that so nice? I feel like that's the nicest thing that you could say to a podcast.
If you want to listen to us more than once,
twice.
oh my gosh, you're a honey.
As the editor of this podcast, I am shocked. PJ says, "I can totally relate to growing up with the show, terrifying myself before bed, and then getting my mother angry at me for watching when I wasn't supposed to be." I love the banter, which really brings out your personalities, and know that's part of the appeal of the show, but I did cringe a little. Relax, it's about form, not content. When in the latest episode, season 4, episode 3, you couldn't figure out what the abbreviation FR meant.
We Googled it. We got there.
PJ says, "I'm a former theology professor now serving as a parish priest." We have a parish priest that listens to our show.
Oh my gosh.
It's blowing my mind. "And I'd be happy to serve as your resident religious expert. I'm not looking for any credit on the show or anything, but if you have an episode coming out with religious content, you could forward me any questions ahead of time, and you wouldn't have to limit it to Catholicism or Christianity. For the purposes of the show, I could answer pretty much any questions you have. And if I didn't know myself, I'd know somebody who could. For example, if you shot off an email last week that read, 'Hey PJ, we're doing a segment on next week's episode based on that goofy Shroud of Turin segment, and we're a little confused. They use the abbreviation FR in front of his name. What does that mean? Is he a friar, a father, or what?' I would have responded, 'Good morning, gang.' The abbreviation FR is short for father and is used by Catholic and Anglican, Episcopal, and Orthodox clergy. It means the person is a male priest. Anglicans and Episcopalians who ordain women use the abbreviation MTR for mother in a similar way. I did not know that. Friars are a thing.
Didn't know.
I was the one that asked if they were still a thing. But they're a slightly different thing and are not abbreviated as FR for friar, though many of them are also priests and may still be called father. I get it. It's confusing. In the Catholic, Orthodox, and Anglican churches, you have two different but related things, priesthood and the religious life. Priests, who are like the ordinary clergy in each of these groups, are ordained to a particular office. Bishops are on the top, running a large area with several parishes. Priests are in the middle, typically overseeing one or few local parishes, and then deacons are at the bottom, assisting the priests, especially with social work. Religious life consists of monks and nuns, who are typically cloistered, and friars and sisters. What makes a person religious is that they have taken vows, typically of poverty, chastity, and obedience. They tend to live in communities, and the community tends to have a specific function. For monks or nuns in monastery, the function is to pray and be hospitable to guests. They usually earn their money by some kind of work, brewing beer, building coffins, making candy, etc.
What?
Oh.
I think those are all great jobs.
Love it.
It sounds like a party to me.
It does. Friars and sisters, on the other hand, are professional beggars. They rely on donations to run their organizations. They staff, think like nursing sisters in hospitals or teaching sisters in schools. And, SR is the ordinary abbreviation for sister, by the way. Here's an easy way to remember it. Some friars are fathers, but not all fathers are friars.
Oh, that's an easy way to remember it.
PJ goes on to say, Father Dreisbach, the man in question, who we loved, was a well-respected Episcopal priest who had served as a civil rights advocate back in the 60s and 70s. He later became rector, head priest of the Church of the Incarnation in Atlanta. He was the founding president of the Atlanta International Center for Continuing Study of the Shroud of Turin, which is what all of those initials were after his name. He died in 2006, ironically on his way to Italy to give a lecture on the Shroud. which they said in this segment. You guys might not be interested in this at all, but I thought I'd offer as my little way of saying thank you for all that you do. Either way, and for what it's worth, you've got a funny little parish priest praying for you up in Iowa. Oh.
Okay, so nice.
Too nice.
Yours, FR, that's father, but you can just call me PJ.
Oh
PJ!
my gosh. PJ.
PJ, you better build me a coffin and brew me a beer because I'm dead. That is the nicest.
And fill it with candy.
And fill it with candy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Wow.
I love it.
that's so nice.
I know.
He's praying for us.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh.
Please pray for me.
Honeys, you're all honeys. Thank you so much.
You guys, these letters from you are amazing, and we enjoy them so much. Y'all are the best. Truly, truly.
What a batch. What a batch.
Yeah. Thank
Lead
you.
us out, Carlin.
Lead us out, Carlin.
Well, thanks for writing, you guys. Please write us more things. And you may have seen a little mention of this on social media, but we now are going to receive messages from our website. We were not for a few months there, but we got it sorted out. So you can write to us on our website, resolvedmysteriespodcast.com. You can write to us at our email address, resolvedmysteriespodcast@gmail.com. You can contact us on many of our social medias. Resolved Mysteries Podcast on Instagram, Resolve the Pod on Twitter and Facebook, and our P.O. Box, 14005, Portland, Oregon, 97293.
Yes.
We love you.
We love you.
We love you so.
Thanks for your knowledge.
Yeah. Thanks for all your smarts.
So smart.
Okay.
Oh, bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. So the first short stack. Now I can't stop thinking about it.
What do we call one segment of a short stack? Just a pancake?
It's a pancake.
A silver dollar.
Yes.
Oh, the first silver dollar.
Look at us coming up with this on the fly and being amazing at it.
Cute.
IHOP, here we come. Honestly, one time, Carlin and I were very drunk, and we ate pancakes at IHOP, and it worked out great for me, and it worked out really bad for Carlin. That's all I have to say.
Brought multiple styrofoam containers of breakfast food back to our hotel room in the middle of the night.
And it worked out so good for me. It soaked everything up. Carlin was barfing the whole time.
Ooh.
I had to
But
take
I
a
swear by
Zofran.
pancakes. You did, and then you threw the Zofran up.
That's criminal. That's a waste of Zofran, and that's a
Yeah.
hot commodity.
The friend whose Zofran it was a little disappointed.
It truly was a waste.
Anyway, you didn't want to hear about that. Okay, here we go.
That's the outro. All right.